Good morning. Really, if you say it's good, it's more likely to be that way. So that's what I tell my students. If you say it's going to be a good morning, you're setting yourself up for a better one. So good morning, everyone. My name is Mursalata Muhammad, and I had the honor of serving with my colleagues on the planning committee, and we're so happy that you are joining us today, and happy to have Dr. Elaine Richardson. So have you enjoyed yourself so far? Okay. Well, it's going to keep being great. I'm just going to say a few more words about Dr. Elaine Richardson, and if you want a few more words, you can read her bio, which is on page 18 in your program. So, I love Dr. E. So her students refer to her as Dr. E, Dr. Elaine Richardson. I first met Dr. Richardson at Penn State University when I was a graduate student, and she was just great. I mean, she was a place that grad students will go to her office and just talk to her. And at Penn State, I remember she brought the African American Read-In, which was a program. And at that time, I had two little girls, and they participated in the program. And she is all about literacy. And that was the first time when I was at Penn State, I realized there's English and then there's rhetoric and comp, and how they complement each other, and what we need to know as at that point, being a good teacher. She was a great example of what that means. And to let her show you this herself, I'm just going to turn it over now to Dr. Elaine Richardson. And if you don't have, you can raise your hand if you don't have the handout. I'll come and bring more to your table.
What Morsalata did not say is that her daughters were always stole the show at the African American Read-In. That was such a great time at Penn State. And I'm grateful to Jerry Scott Cobb and the people of NCTE that started the African American Read-In. It really gave me a chance to connect with people all across central Pennsylvania as a new assistant professor. It was a great experience for me. So thank you for reminding me of that more. Wow. I'd like to thank Dr. Nora Neal, Morsalata, and everyone else who's responsible for me being here today. In talking about writing as performance, I want to emphasize that I'm promoting a theory of embodied knowledge that challenges dominant institutions' biases for standard linguistic acuity and print production that reinforce the dominant culture's deep meanings. Performance is suspect because it's emotional. It's a different way of connecting with your audience. It's about the imagination. And so I just want to get a little bit free myself now, just because I get free when I can perform. For a long time, I stopped performing because I thought I had to fit in a certain box in the academy. And I used to begin all of my presentations with songs from with a song from the civil rights movement. And I'd have these presentations that I worked on, that were about freedom and literacy in the African American tradition. And at the end of my presentation, nobody would have questions for me about the ideas I presented. They would only remember my voice. And they would say, "Oh my God, you have such a great voice." And I'm like, I felt like I was stepping fetch it. I felt like I was dancing to be, or singing to be accepted in the academy, and that they weren't really hearing what I was saying about the Black voice or African American, different African American modes of expression and persuasion. But I'm still trying to get free, so I'm gonna do it today. Oh my God. Lord, I feel good, good, good. I feel good, oh yes, my Lord, because I know I got a seat in God's kingdom. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. I went in the valley one day to pray. My soul got so happy, I stayed all day because I know I got a seat in God's kingdom. It makes me feel good, makes me feel good. Now that's one of them old gospel songs that they used to sing at my church when I was a little kid. And I used to laugh at the old people when they would sing those songs. But as I got older, and then when I came to college and I got introduced to the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, and he talked about those old songs that the old people used to sing and how they would moan and hold hands. And that empowered me to know that, wow, these songs are really old and they helped us get over. And that we should feel good and not feel ashamed of these songs. All right now. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Y'all making me feel at home. So thinking about writing as performance brings together critical issues of language and identity, the subjectivity of writing, the personalization of academic writing, how identity is constructed through writing, what writers bring to the table, how words work in the world. Performance challenges composition studies to refocus its attention away from fixing the discipline to stretching it, opening the definition of composing and requiring us to be open to periods of indecision and flux. Performance philosophy is partly based in language philosophy, underscoring the arbitrary nature of language, how people give language meaning, structure, and value. In this sense, language, written and spoken, is not universal. It is always under construction and contested. It is always connected to context and discourse. Language changes based on needs of culture. Thinking of written language as performative gets at the heart of language variation and its value to critical literacy. Through the work of the Language Policy Committee, the 4Cs and the NCTE passed 2 language policies. The students' right to their own language in 1974, which was reaffirmed in 2003 by 4Cs and reaffirmed by NCTE in 2003. The National Language Policy was started in 1988, developed in 1988, and adopted by NCTE in 1998. Those policies were designated to set the tone for policy and pedagogy to support language diversity in the classroom. We've seen a plethora of research on language differences in the decades since these policies were adopted, yet many people still don't feel comfortable with them because a lot of people are not supported in their institutions to implement language diversity. And so every year at 4Cs, at the first day of 4Cs, or the workshop day, the Wednesday before 4Cs, we give a workshop to help people think about ways that they can incorporate language diversity into their teaching. And so I've been myself growing in that regard since I was a graduate student who studied with Geneva Smitherman, who was the chair of the Language Policy Committee when I was a graduate student, and she's since passed the baton on to me, and so now I'm a co-chair of the Language Policy Committee. But I've grown in different ways of thinking about how to implement language diversity into my teaching. And so now I want to play for you a short clip that features a graduate student by the name of Jamila Lyscott. And she is a PhD student at Teachers College, Columbia University. And you might have seen this because a lot of people, it's been getting around. She first did it as um, Word, which is a New York City spoken word group that do literacy through poetry and spoken word. And then this clip comes from a TED Talk. So she did it again as a TED Talk. Very, very powerful at showing some of the issues that myself, as a young black woman coming from the ghetto to the university, um, faced when I got there. Also, one of the things that I like to underscore from her talk is that it really reminds me of how I was, even though I got like the first layer of using linguistic uh, variation in my teaching of writing when I was a graduate student at Michigan State for doing my dissertation research. I was at a first step in my development as a compositionist. And so I had my students bring in rap lyrics. Like this was back in 19 whatever when I was at Michigan State, 1993, 4, somewhere around in there. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna look at the African American vernacular English in these lyrics. We're gonna look at the syntax. We're gonna look at the phonology, and we are going to contrast them to standardized English that you need to be able to produce to finesse your way through Michigan State University, right? And so I had my students bring in these lyrics, and they wanted to talk not just about the lyrics, like from this structural, decontextualized linguistic perspective. They wanted to talk about what these lyrics and syntax and phonology patterns meant in the context of the writing, or the rap, and what they wanted to write about. So they took me higher because I was really keeping them low, right? I was keeping them on this surface level of let's look at the language, let's look at the grammar, and I'm valuing that you listen to rap, but I was older than all of them, so I didn't like the rap that they listened to, because they were bringing in stuff that I didn't listen to, that really challenged me, right? Because I'm thinking I'm not that much older than y'all now. Come on now, I can. But they were bringing in stuff that was blowing my mind, and it finally, it helped me to critique myself that I was really doing the same thing to them that had been done to me, but I was doing it in a culturally relevant way. And so it helped me to start looking at language in a broader perspective, even though, yeah, you still might want to know what these academic or what these standardized patterns are. It challenged me to start looking more broadly at language, the performativity of the grammar, the performativity of the phonology, the cultural context in which it was embedded. And I started getting more and more into critical language and critical literacy theorists, because at first I was more of, looking at, like I say, variation in the linguistic patterns. But the critical discourse scholars and the critical literacy scholars helped me to see those things in a bigger context. And that's when I started really thinking about how can I use hip hop, how can I use popular culture in a more meaningful way to teach writing and to teach academic literacy and to teach critical literacy and to get students to be critical about the world that they live in. I was growing with my students, becoming more and more critical. So I graduated from Michigan State University in 1996. My dissertation was titled Freedom Through Literacy, an Afrocentric Approach to Composition. That piece of work addressed a problem that still exists. How do we make ourselves the subject of the writing classroom, and indeed all classrooms, so that we don't have to become alienated from the subject that we are learning? and ourselves. How do we embrace the language and literacies of students in order to teach about the intricate relations of language, literacy, identity, and society? My educational experiences, for the most part, taught me that I was illiterate. My language was ignorant, and that I needed to get rid of my culture in order to be successful in the academy and the mainstream. There was a disconnect between what teachers knew about my home language and how this language was essential to my culture, my history, my identity, and my literacy growth. My dissertation project sought to develop a curriculum which would contribute to filling this void. I learned sophisticated theories of linguistics, their oral and literate traditions. I developed my research design, administered it to Black students, saw promising results, wrote my dissertation, and eventually expanded these studies in other locations and turned my dissertation into my first book, which became my tenure book at Penn State, African American Literacies in 2003. I've written subsequent scholarly books that in some way seek to add to the understanding of literacy, education, and culture. I'm not sure that any of those books have done anything for people where I come from. Many of them, nor their teachers, will ever open those books. Many of them will never come through these doors. I need to reach people and to validate their lives. So I have to give a shout out to Dr. Geneva Smitherman for writing Talking and Testifying, The Language of Black America, the book that started me on my way to understanding that my language was me, not something to be ashamed of. I have to give honor to Keith Gilliard, one of my other mentors, for writing Voices of the Self, and Victor Villanueva for writing Bootstraps of an American Academic of Color, and Vershawn Young for writing Your Average Nigger. And a shout out to all the educators who laid the path for their educational memoirs. When activist educators from historically oppressed groups tell their stories, from poverty to PhD, or GED to PhD, or from whatever less than mainstream at risk for failure position to American success story, we do so hoping that in narrating, the exception can become the rule. And I gotta go to my girl, Sojourner Truth, who said, I don't read small stuff as letters. I read men and nations. And all the way back to the field Negro who shouted and moaned to express a reality that was not valued, to express a humanity that was not valued. That reminds me, I gave a talk in Weimar, Germany this summer, and they were asking me, they asked me to come and talk about Black popular culture and gospel music, and they asked me to define moaning. I said, you gotta go through slavery to get that moan. You gotta go through a whole lot, because they were trying to analyze it. You know, the phonology of it and the acoustic wavelength of a moan. You got to feel that thing. You know, I mean, you can analyze it, but you still not gonna get to what it really is. And that's what performance is too, right? You try to get that feeling across to your audience the best way you can. It's taken me a lifetime, it seems, to get to where I am today, to write a book that I felt would reach people like me using whatever languages I felt I could use and I wanted to use. To teach writing and literacy in a soulful way that tries to get at the core of our humanity. And I got to give thanks to Dr. Jackie Royster for writing that article about when the first voice you hear is not your own. Because when the first voice you hear is your own, but your parents doing their parental and educational duty ask you to disown it. When the first voice you hear is not your own, but you have to figure out how to make it your own or change it. I was born in a poverty-stricken area of Cleveland, Ohio, continuing to reside there, becoming a sex-trafficked teen, a juvenile delinquent, and then young adult prostitute, drug addict, and single mother. I eventually made it to college and became interested in language, literacy, and identity studies. My story takes the reader up through my undergraduate and graduate experiences to earning a PhD, hence the title, PhD, Poho on Dope to PhD, How Education Saved My Life. So I'll switch gears here and read a segment of my memoir that exemplifies my early college writing experiences that are very much at the center of my writing teacher identity, philosophies, and agendas. Afterwards, I want to share with you a sample assignment that I used with my hip hop literacy course at the university. And I also wanted to show you an example from my after school literacy club that I do with young urban black girls in a middle school, but I didn't bring it because I didn't think I have enough time, but if we do have time, I can talk about it and show you a clip from what the middle school girls are doing, because I use the same just about philosophies, but I try to make it personalized to the audience that I'm working with. And so the excerpt that I'm going to read is from chapter 12 of PhD to PhD, and it's called the Cleveland State University years. So at this time, I have made it back to school. I had gone to school earlier. I had been, like I said, I had been a sex trafficked teen. And so I had a very problematic and traumatic teenage life. And I put my mother through hell. But eventually, the guy who turned me out to the street life had gone to prison. And so that helped me to graduate from middle school. They called it junior high back then. Helped me to graduate from junior high and high school when he went to prison, and to get back into I was in the choir and the orchestra and different activities, cheerleader and all that kind of stuff, singing. And that helped me to get through high school. But I still was academically unprepared for college. My mother went to the 6th grade. My father went to the 11th grade. My mother was a Jamaican immigrant, and her dad got killed when she was 13. So at that time, if you were the oldest, they took you out of school and you had to work. So my mother really wanted me to get an education. That was like her dream for herself, to have what she called the opportunity to get an education. But she never had that opportunity, but she planted that in me. So she would, any garbage can that I went and jumped in, anything that happened to me, she would come and pull me out and dust me off and try to put me back on the road to getting this education that she always wanted. So I had come to Cleveland State after graduating from East Tech High School, underprepared, still wounded, never got counseling for the abortion that I had when I was 13, the rapes that I had, being sex trapped, never got any kind of counseling, just keep going, And so anyway, I went to Cleveland State and got kicked out, academically dismissed the first time that I went. And that gave me the opportunity to be reintroduced to the street life, because I was still this wounded person with low self-esteem. And I felt like, I don't need no Cleveland State. Y'all put me out of here. Y'all corny anyway. But the second time that I came back to Cleveland State, I was determined to be there, because now I have 2 kids. I'm hiding. I'm trying to get a new identity. I don't want people to know that I'm the same person that was prostituting on the avenue. That was the junkie. That was the crackhead. Well, I wasn't a crackhead, but a dope addict nonetheless, and an alcoholic. So this is the beginning of chapter 12, the Cleveland State University years. School was an easier grind than flagging cars, ducking undercovers, jumping out of moving vehicles, dodging bullets, turning tricks, outsmarting serial murderer, rapists, and killers, running away from pimps and staying high. 6 months after I had my baby, I was back in school, desperate for a new identity. No more wigs, makeup, high heels, G-strings, and jail cells. I wanted nobody there to know me or where I'd come from. I covered myself with my versions of what Mama called proper English, square clothes and square dealing. I was just glad that I was alive with a new lease on life. My new outlook was working in Introduction to Sociology and Basic Algebra courses. But this English teacher got under my skin. Our first assignment was to write a paper about our neighborhood. Now, how was I going to do that and keep my cover? Well, I was black, so he probably thought I was poor anyway. No need to lie. I'll just describe my neighborhood using my best English. How he gonna circle the words nocturnal insects? I thought I was helping him understand how roaches rolled in the hood. He wrote just as much as I did, drew all kinds of red circles around my words, crossed out some of my best stuff. At the end of the ink was a grade, D/ please make an appointment to see me. It was my first office hour with the professor. Hi, you gave me a D and said I should make an appointment. So how do I improve my grade? Miss Richardson, said my young, blowhard, long-haired, laid-back, lame, faded jeans wearing white dude English professor candidly. The look he shot me seemed to anticipate the answer to the rhetorical question, what city school district are you from? Cleveland, I said. Flabbergasted, he shook his head and exhaled in a long, loud breath that blew his bang back from his forehead. Cleveland Public, huh? Figures. You should work on each assignment in the writing center with the tutors. Did you bring the paper with you? Offended. Yeah, I brought it with me, I replied in a stronger voice as I sat down, reached into my book bag, dug out the paper, and handed it to him. While he read and scratched his head, I began to plead. Okay, this was the first assignment. I figured I could describe my neighborhood without no help. If you show me what to do, I can figure it out. I'm thinking, I done been away from school for 6 years, out in the world, conversing with doctors, lawyers, and men from all walks of life. I've been using English, among other things, good enough to make hundreds of thousands of dollars and stay alive. And I need some square white folk to help me write about my hood? I don't think so. Most students who take advantage of the writing center improve by at least 1 letter grade. I allow 1 revision, 1 extra week per paper. No guarantees. The tutor reports what you worked on and signs off on it. You got it? He said with an air of arrogance as he looked up over his glasses and handed my paper back to me. Yeah, I got it. My next stop was the writing center. All the tutors looked white and most of the clients were Asian, black, and perhaps West Side Puerto Ricans. Something was wrong with this picture. But what could I do? The young white girl assigned to work with me seemed nice enough. Tutors don't fix the paper. We read them over, offer suggestions, and ask you questions for clarification to assist with your writing goals. How's that sound? Sounds great, I said in nasalist Northeast Ohio white girl speak. She asked over and over about passages pertaining to nocturnal insects, after-hour joints, reefer spots, and number houses. What you mean to say here? I looked her dead in the eye and said, I meant what I said. Still confused, she asked, can you say it another way? Irritated. If I have to, maybe. Why? Your reader needs clarification. What you mean, my reader? It sounds clear to me. That don't sound clear to you? Time was up. I'm thinking, what a waste. Maybe she thought the same thing. But she said that I could sign up as often as I wanted, but that I had to come at least once a week, and that between sessions I should concentrate on rewriting some of the passages for clarity and precise expression. What the hell? I signed up again for the next available spot, which was the next day. When I returned, same tutor, proud of my work, I showed her where I had revised the passages. She quickly read them over and asked me to read them aloud to her. Before I could complete a phrase, she kept stopping me after every other word. I don't know if I'm getting your meaning. Do you mind if I consult one of the other tutors? Get whoever you want, y'all the professionals. Great, it'll be just a few minutes. After reviewing my paper with her coworker, a few minutes, another young lady comes over and says, looks like you really got into this assignment. That's great. Thanks, I said. I think we should work on mechanics, punctuation, and word choice. Things like that. How's that? Okay, whatever. See here, every time you end an idea, you need a period. Now, where does your idea end? At the end. Wrong again. Wherever she said an idea ended, I'd mark the period. Some of the words and phrases left unmarked by the professor in the original draft, she marked awkward. Damn near everything I wrote was awkward. Let them tell it. Once again, as soon as we got going, time was up. I was relieved because most of her suggestions got on my damn nerves. I could tell by the look on her face that she really wasn't feeling this paper. I just made another appointment for the next day because I needed good grades to stay in school and I wasn't going to let nobody run me out. Next day, same shit, different tutor. I caught on quick. Go along, get along. Except I wasn't letting go of some of my words. I'm keeping my nocturnal insects. So, now, when I began, like I said, my focus was mostly on creating awareness among students about vernacular and standardized syntax and discourse forms. At that point in my development as a scholar, I focused on mostly helping students be aware of the differences, especially syntactic differences, so they could decide when and how to use whatever form they chose on purpose and with power. A primary focus was on code switching or wearing the mask to pass through whatever mainstream hurdle they encountered. I asked my students, as I said, to bring in lyrics from the music they listened to so that they can translate them into standardized English. As I grew, I was introduced to critical linguistics and new literacy studies. I came to understand that power, racism, and economics are also a part of the matrix for improving literacy and literacy education. If one accepts the new literacy studies approach, one cannot coherently debate ways of improving reading and writing and leave out social, cultural, institutional, political issues and interventions as if they were separate from literacy. So my pedagogical approaches underscore the importance of cultivating and supporting students' lived experiences and literacy traditions, building support networks, institutions, and practices geared towards self and collective empowerment, getting students to think outside of the box and be creative critical thinkers, teach students to see the inner workings of discourses and take an explicit position to expose and resist social inequality. And so you have a handout of one of the assignments that I use in my hip-hop literacies course that I want to go through with you. So students who take this course can be undergraduates or graduate students. It's not, I'm in the College of Education now. I was in English at Penn State, and I used to teach freshman composition and also teach teachers how to teach freshman composition. But now I'm still teaching writing. I'm just doing it in a different venue, right? It's not first year composition. Supposedly people have already taken freshman composition and they can take this course in the College of Education course. In the College of Education. But they're undergraduate students who are sophomores or higher, and they're also graduate students in the course. So I require more of the graduate students, but all of the students do the same assignments. And the main concepts of the course are hegemony, empowerment, critical literacy, discourse practice of hip-hop generation youth, and issues of their lived experiences. Now, this assignment is due. They have to give me a proposal on what their final project is going to be about in the course. And all through the semester, I have like different readings that I try to hit different areas. So I'll have readings on hip-hop feminism, I'll have hip hop. I'll have readings on people who use hip hop to teach what they call urban science. I'll have readings on about how people use hip hop to raise political awareness among youth, social action. So this course is a literacy and social action course, right? And we use hip hop as the content, but they have to learn about critical literacy, critical discourse, and it's really I try to make them very aware of language, how language is used in performance, how different hip hop generation youth are represented, and they find themselves somewhere in the course. And people can negotiate readings, and when people do negotiate a reading, they have to teach it to the class. So them teaching a reading to the class, they have to work with me before they teach so I can know that they're going to hit the points that I need them to hit. And they also have one person who's the community respondent to their particular presentation. But anyway, so this is the assignment for the final project. And so all through before then, that they've had experience about how to read these articles that we're reading closely. We work on the ideas in the articles. Like I said, they have to co-teach, so they have to teach one of the articles. They have to find their own supporting text and video clips or whatever they want to use to help teach. They have to come up with activities for the class to do. So by week 9, they ought to be able to give me a proposal about what their final project is going to be about. So this is what this is. Your proposal should incorporate the main concepts, and I give this out like during the beginning of the year, right, the beginning of the course. Your proposal should incorporate the main concepts of the course: hegemony, empowerment, critical literacy, discourse practice of hip-hop generation youth, and issues of their lived experiences. Your proposal must incorporate course readings and others that you have found on your own through the OSU research databases to show a line of research and theory in hip-hop studies. How many sources? Enough to make your project outstanding. Length of proposal 2 or 3 pages. Please focus on at least one hip-hop aesthetic form or principle focused on from the course readings: knowledge of self, cipher, battle, rap, hip-hop language, hip-hop discourse, spoken word, dance, and there are others. Please incorporate at least one theory or concept or way of thinking about or studying hip-hop from the readings, such as, and the readings touched on these issues: queering hip-hop, mothering in hip-hop, tropes of masculinity and femininity, sexuality, gender, hip-hop feminism, critical pedagogy, or performance ethnography. Please do not see this list as exhaustive. If you are interested and invested in something that is not listed, keep talking to me about it and we'll work it out. I'm looking for how you are putting what other scholars, writers, artists, educators have said together with your own ideas about hip-hop literacies. Please include the names of articles that you have found and how you think they fit into your project. Your proposal must have a clear research question that is the focus of your project. Your project must have a clear topic and title. Finally, make it clear to me how this project drives you. I always share my story with students, like how I was a sex trafficked teen and how that influences my writing and my songwriting and my performing and my teaching. And so I told them at the beginning of the year that this course is about you too. It's not just about me. This course is about you. I'm trying to get to your core. I want you to do something that you care about, because I know bullshit when I see it. And if I can't feel it, that means you ain't keeping it real. That's what I try to develop in them. Finally, make it clear how this project drives you. Include your own personal story inside the research, and I give them examples from the readings that they can use. And I save class in the beginning of week 6, and then we start working on the proposals together from week 6 to week 9. And some people who are ahead, they can call me or email me at any time, and we meet and talk about their proposal. Because I found that if they get that proposal, juicy, that the final project is going to be juicy. So this is one of the best ones from the class. And this young lady was already active in LGBTQ social issues. And so she immediately connected to the readings because she had had some background in thinking critically already. Speaking up, this is her proposal. Speaking up, speaking out, female battle rap as a space of freedom. As a matter of fact, too, I should probably show you a clip. Man, I'm forgetting about that. We didn't even go into all that, did we? Okay, let me show you a clip. How am I doing on time? Okay. Let me show just a little teeny bit of she presented this in one of the articles that she taught. So this was what she's talking about is Queen of the Ring, and this is a female battle rap space. And this is what her proposal is. I just want to show you a little clip so when you read the proposal, you'll have some kind of background.
I said, you all arrogant in your interviews like, this gonna be your best yet. Well, now that I face you here, you gonna curl up. That's a French chef. What I wrote to make your soul fly and your set rep. Cause with these rounds, I lift bars up, then get your bench pressed. But I heard you part of a team now. And that really seems to flatter me. I'm that nice you had to join some niggas right before you battled me? Okay, you needed help. But if you think that decision was right, it's not. And y'all call yourselves writer's block? Well, I'm gonna ride down they rider's block, like make her write this block and do it so bad they won't think of bars no more. Now that's writer's block.
And so they have rounds, just like a fight, And so one rapper, does a round and the next person comes back with their round. Okay, so this is her proposal. Speaking up, speaking out, female battle rap as a space of freedom. Queen of the Ring is the only female battle rap league in the world, a place mostly occupied by black and brown women. It offers a very unique platform for marginalized and objectified peoples. Watching any Queen of the Ring battle, you could find people with any number of gender identities: studs, femmes, gender fluid folks, trans, butch, people who are more feminine, androgynous folks, as well as those who might look one way in the battle and another way, another battle. Oh, look one way, one battle, and another way, another battle. And sexualities. Those we know are straight. Those who are lesbians, bisexuals, those who dabble here and there. I love the dabble here and there. Not only do we see these people, but we hear them and their stories, a very political thing in and of itself. Queen of the Ring offers a platform for people who are often silenced in the mainstream culture of rap and hip hop. My research question is asking, how does female battle rap, Queen of the Ring, disrupt hegemonic social order and racism, gender and sexuality oppression, and create more freedom for these people? So you see where she's incorporating everything that I told them that they have to have in their proposal. The problem that this research on female battle rap raises is that some aspects of it are not so liberating. So they have to show that they're being critical about what they're presenting, what their final project is on. They're always looking for spaces where they can show me that they're getting this critical reading and the critical analysis part. Rappers discriminate based on things like sexuality or gender identity, lookism, and she taught me about lookism, how people critique how you look. And the very act of battle rap is to tear the other rapper down, which some people might not like. I am using, and now she's telling me about the articles that she found and that she's incorporating, that she will incorporate into her final project. I'm using Sandra Zeikerman's The Effects of Hip Hop and Rap on Young Women in Academia, and Fatima Nadia Muhammad's Hip Hop Culture's Impact on Young Black Women's Identity to show how women and girls are traditionally at the bottom of the American, if not the world's, social order. They are seen as hoes and bitches who are there to serve the alpha males. I will use Nikki Lane's Black Women Queering the Mic, Missy Elliott disturbing the boundaries of racialized sexuality and gender, to further show how Black women can and do work outside the assigned roles to challenge hegemony. See how she's got the hegemony in there. She's showing me the different things that we've been working on through the course. I will also use Andriana Clay's Like an Old School Soul Record, Black Feminism, Queer Sexuality, and the Hip Hop Generation. And that was one of the articles that she taught to the class to address the need for queer visibility in hip hop. I will look at the battles for diversity in gender identity, race, and sexuality so I can show moments that seem to reach for freedom, talk back to intolerance, contradiction, and hypocrisy in society. I will also try to show discrimination and prejudice. I will tie female battle rap into the history of Black women and resistance. All through my paper, I will use Emery Petchower's concept. Oh, this is the article. I'm sorry. This is the article that she taught in class. All through my paper, I will use Emery Petchower's concept that I presented in class, his idea of autonomy distance, to show that hip hop is not this or that. It is both and, because female battle rap is both empowering and disempowering at the same time. I thought that was really good for an undergraduate student to be able, she's showing me that, you know, I got it. And she, like I said, she was a little bit further ahead than other people in critical thinking because she was involved in LGBTQ political organizations already. As a high school student, she told me that's how long she has been aware and fighting for equality. Anyway. It is both and because female battle rap is both empowering and disempowering at the same time, but it still gives diverse people a voice. And even though there are aspects of discrimination and prejudice, there is always the opportunity for the opponent to defend their own position and identify when they get their turn to speak. So needless to say, she had one of the best final projects in the class. And in fact, I'm trying to help her to keep working on it so she can get it published because she's a very dedicated student. And I want to, you know, push her as far as I can, help her. Okay. So my journey inside and outside of the academy is helping me to put myself together as a writing facilitator, a language and literacy educator, teaching artist, performer, community member, citizen, mentor, and woman. I credit the performer in me and my artistry with opening me up to becoming more and more flexible and open myself to others and other points of view. My voice is still under construction as I navigate my way through the world. I strive to help others to learn to navigate, negotiate, imagine, and create the world we all want to live in. Thank you.
Well, it is 9:30. If there are, we can maybe take a couple questions, but I want you to know that Dr. Richardson, Dr. E, will be set up right outside here until about noon, so you can talk to her and you can take home a bit of her voice, sis, because her book is there, a CD, and so a couple of things. So do we have maybe one or two? Do we have any burning? Like, I need to say this in front of everybody. If not, we want to honor your time and make sure you can get to where you're going. So can we just give her one more round of applause? It'd be great. Thank you.